you. I didn't know if that was happening here or not.
Yes, Jen and I had spoken with it. She was very helpful. So
Great.
yeah, I thought it was a good idea. I'm going to probably record it to my computer as well. Not that I'm the greatest instructor in the world, because I certainly am not.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be good.
I just would like to impart the information I know, and but it's really nice. So you sent out invitations to all the DSOPAs and to national staff?
Well, it only went to DSOPAs, but then other people started reaching out to me, so I sent it to whoever asked for it.
Okay.
I know like Doug Manifold is on, and I think some other folks just kind of randomly reached out to me. So I think people started to, I sent it to just DSOPAs, and then it kind of sprouted, from there. So,
well, it's a hot topic, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I know Mr. Couchard reached out to me from District 7 in Miami. So it's great. The more the merrier.
Yeah, exactly. And the last DTRAIN, we did a panel discussion with Roger Baisley, Reed Oslin, and it was more public, straight publications focused. So that's why this, for this session, I wanted to switch over to social media. And it's good to bring in the expert here. I really appreciate you, taking the time.
No problem. Yeah, anytime you want to do a more of a panel discussion, I'd be for that as well. Actually enjoy those more than me just talking. So,
well, we've got another one of these in October, but if there's something, but again, I mean, if another district, right, wants to do something similar to this or be part of national or whatever,
sure.
I'm happy to join a panel with you or whatever. Makes sense. So.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I actually have been speaking with Lourdes, and she would like to do a workshop for social media, maybe over a period of a national workshop. So maybe over a period of 4 weeks, that type of thing. We haven't discussed all the details, but we did discuss it briefly. So that's probably going to be in the future as well.
That's great.
Yeah. And also, I think we're going to have one just for the aid directorate, or maybe all the national staff, potentially.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So you can hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay, because I'm using this cheap little earbud thing.
I like the eagle right behind you. It's a nice touch.
Thank you. That's I took that. Oh gosh, Vancouver Island. It took me 1 car ferry, a 2-hour trip, another car ferry that was where they used a pulley system to this tiny little island. And then we had to drive across the tiny island and then walk 30 minutes in to get that eagle shot.
I mean, it's a great shot, so it's probably,
Thank you.
It seems worth it.
Yeah, it was. I went to Vancouver Island strictly for bird photography. So thank you. It won an award last year at my photography club here in Florence, Oregon. So I was very surprised and happy, and it was a cash award, which made me even happier. So
yeah, could probably license it.
Oh, getting close, huh?
Yeah, and I know people are filling in here, and
yep, just let me know when you want to start the official recording.
Okay, thank you. Oh, you could probably start it now since we're so close, I would imagine.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Is it already recording? It says in the top left.
Deborah is recording it on her own, but
Yes.
What I'm going to be doing is we're recording it onto YouTube so we can make, the whole E-Train series available.
That's awesome. We did that with mine as well. Except for my class was 3.5 hours, so a lot more extensive and detailed. It was a long class, let me tell you.
Okay, I'll start the stream now then.
Hi, Jane Smith, I see is here. Hi, Jane Smith.
We'll probably want everybody muted unless they're going to be saying something, just so we can keep extraneous noise down.
That sounds good. I'll be asking questions later on. Hey, John, I read the version of your social media policy for your district.
It's a draft. It hasn't. It's a draft that's still bouncing around. It hasn't gone. It hasn't gone fully up yet. So.
Well, ironically, the first two paragraphs of that, I noticed. I mean, I see that you took it from us, but the first two paragraphs, those paragraphs are changed up a little bit, but from 20 years ago, from my master's thesis 20 years ago, still using the topic.
Well, I mean, I kept what I thought and what I agreed with. So there's no point in rewriting it. I mean, it says exactly what I wanted to say. So
yeah, it's more than welcome to use it. And thank you for the shout out at the end. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, for a lot of reasons, but, and you're welcome to, I did a publications policy that, is similar, but I took from the PB manual, and it's shorter because, I don't want to go into too much detail there, but,
yeah,
so I think it makes sense.
It does. Well, I have 13:29 hours, so I guess we can wait one more minute.
No, get out of there. Get out of there. No, you don't go in there. Lori will be mad at you.
Hey, Jane. Jane, you might want to mute your button. I recognized your voice right away.
There you go. I do a lot of this stuff that.
Deborah, should we get started, or do you give folks another minute, you think?
Let's just go ahead and get started.
Okay, great. Well, I'll just do a very quick intro here. I want to thank you all for joining us for this very special class that Deborah Cordone will be putting on here on social media. I've been speaking a lot with her over the last few weeks and months, and she is the national branch chief for social media and also a district staff officer of public affairs. So she is the right person to be teaching us all about social media and policy for both the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary. She previously had served in communication services as well, augmented the active duty in public affairs for 5 years, including administering 2 active duty Facebook pages. She's recently hosted the National Active Duty Instagram page takeover, and I don't know if you guys saw that. It was a very successful event over several days. She did several posts. I know it reached hundreds of thousands of folks, and it was certainly very successful for the auxiliary, and also specifically for our district. We had a lot of folks from our district featured in that event, and I thank her for that work and that effort. And I think Deborah was something like 1 million followers or something, or a cumulative reach to over 1 million followers in 3 days. So it really helped spread the auxiliary message. Not only does she do work at the national stage, she also helps, as we said, on the district. I think it might be one of the only district social media policy out there. And it's so good that, you know, I used it as a draft, and we're still working on a policy in 9th Western region, but I sort of built from that, and obviously thank you for your work there in inspiration. And before auxiliary, she had a law enforcement career. So, and not only that, but studied social media from an academic perspective and wrote a master's thesis. So we have an expert here, and I will turn it over to you because, and thank you for your time and sharing with us today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate those words, John. So as you said, my name is Deborah Cordone. You call me Debbie. I'm the National Branch Chief for Social Media, and I'll be your instructor. This training is being recorded. First of all, thank you so much for your invitation to the 9th District Western Region. For the longest time, I thought it was named the 9th District Western Rivers, but it's Western Region. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you live in an absolutely beautiful area. I've been to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I've seen the gently rolling hills like Michigan and surrounding areas, and I just loved it. Someday I would really like to attend the Grand Haven Coast Guard Festival. I also live in a Coast Guard city, Florence, Oregon, on the wild Oregon coast. We are the smallest of the Coast Guard cities. I actually proposed the project to our mayor, who happens to live on my street, and the designation came to fruition in 2017. Of course, Grand Haven is the original Coast Guard city, so you guys are the OG, so respect to you. I also even have ancestry in Chicago and Kankakee area back to the late 80s. Anyway, that is my connection to your area. Thank you once again for having me. So let's get started. Just going to put my screen share on here. All righty then. So I'd like to say, first of all, that the Coast Guard Auxiliary social media pages potentially have a worldwide audience and are exposed to public scrutiny more than ever before. We need to be prepared to present content and responses in a very professional manner, reflecting our core values and command messages. Those involved in using this very public medium need to be trained in the discipline of auxiliary public affairs, coupled with social media knowledge and experience. So on one hand, familiarity with social media, and on the other hand, knowledge of auxiliary public affairs. It is much more complex than people realize, and knowledge and training are imperative. So today's agenda will include subject matter and questions. This class is scheduled for 1 hour. Hopefully we can go a little bit over if the questions do. And I'm going to try to fit a lot of stuff in here. It won't be everything, but if anybody has a question later on, feel free to call me. So, our current reference for material for policy and guidelines, and I guess you can even say best practices for social media, include the auxiliary manual. And if you haven't read chapter 5R, please read it. There's some good information in there, good basic information. The Coast Guard External Affairs Manual from 2014, note the date, 2014. The Coast Guard Auxiliary Social Media Handbook from 2015, and the Auxiliary Public Affairs Manual from 2014. So social media has greatly enhanced our ability to tell the Coast Guard story and the auxiliary story. And we do that via text, imagery, graphics, video. It's used as an avenue to connect with the boating public, and that way we can disseminate valuable content in several mission areas. However, with the benefit of adding social media to our public affairs toolkit, the auxiliary also has a responsibility in understanding guidelines and ramifications. Official guidelines and policy have not wholly kept up with the ever-changing technology. Guidance evolves as the use of social media increases in our units and as media options change, because those change very rapidly. Of course, all general and peripheral information in these references, they apply as well, such as copyright policy, core values, uniforms, and many other areas. Not long ago, I finished writing the auxiliary social media handbook, but it's just starting through the chain of leadership, so it's not approved yet. Social media is a hot topic and guidance is terribly needed based on the calls and emails I receive on a monthly basis. So now, according to the Coast Guard External Affairs Manual, this is the authority that gives public affairs to supervise social media. So the PAO is responsible for the development and management of the district's social media. A lot of people have thought in the past that it was community or communication services. And it doesn't mean that communication services can't be involved. It can, with the proper training, but it does fall under the public affairs directorate and the DSOPA of every district. So what is social media? Here it says, Merriam's online dictionary defines social media as forms of electronic communication to which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. For us, social media provides an avenue to bridge time and distance to facilitate communications among people with various backgrounds and geographic locations. So we're no longer teaching necessarily in an in-person classroom. We can do it online as well. It's really become an integral part of our everyday lives, and it is an invaluable communication tool. Currently, over 75% of Americans use social media, with the majority on a daily basis. For the auxiliary, we use social media to reach both our internal and external stakeholders. Our internal stakeholders would primarily be our members in the Coast Guard. Of course, our external stakeholders are numerous, but we are primarily disseminating our #1 message about recreational boating safety. It's also a great tool for recruiting and retention. So I just want to briefly talk about traditional mass telecommunications, or more specifically mass media. It has traditionally been one way. So there's a sender, a message, and a receiver. So past examples would be hard copy journalism, television, radio, or even web pages would be considered one-way communication. This message is sent or presented without immediate feedback or engagement with the receiver. The process is linear and it's one way. So social media is all about communications for the 21st century. Unlike traditional mass media, which I just talked about, social media is dynamic, fast-moving, and it allows two-way synchronous communication. There is immediate feedback with our stakeholders in an unprecedented fashion. Social media is all about conversations, community, connecting with your audience, building relationships. Social media not only allows you to hear what people say about you or to you, but it enables you to respond to those comments. It's not just about marketing, it's about building a network and community. So this just shows the exponential growth of social media over a period of time. Back in the early 2000s, when we were using mainly listservs and bulletin boards, maybe 5% of the people were on social media, 98% were male. You can see up till, this just goes to 2018, but you can see the exponential growth here from 5% to over 2 billion. So it's now reported that there are over 3.7 billion active users globally of social media. So since I did the slideshow, it's gone from 3.6 billion to 3.7 billion active users globally on social media, and 4.5 billion users of the internet. So that's distinguishing between internet use, which could be web pages or whatever, and social media. Social media alone is over 3.7 billion people, and it grows every day. Listen to some of these numbers. It's pretty impressive. 91% of retail brands use social media. 81% of smaller businesses use social media. There are about 10 new social media users per second. Facebook Messenger, which a lot of us use, handles 60 billion messages a day. That's a lot. The average time spent on social media is about 3 hours. On Facebook, you can now track your daily hours, give you an idea how much time you're spending on there. You know, of course, there are reportedly both positive and negative aspects of social media on society, but that's a conversation for another day. We're not going to address that here. So we are competing for all those social media users for our pages. We are looking to gain their attention so we can recruit them, so we can retain them, so we can make safer voters. We accomplish that by content, original content, shared posts, engagement. I've come up with a little thing. I believe in 2021, content has become a strategic asset, just like a boat or an air facility. I also believe content is a strategic asset. Images, especially a video, attracts followers, and infographics convey messages more quickly. So you may have wondered what platforms we are authorized to use. Primarily, we're authorized to use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Facebook is a social networking for individuals, businesses, organizations. You build community. There's branding, social awareness and branding, media events like Facebook Live. There's the advantages of posts being long. So some people use Facebook as a kind of a micro blogging site. And like all social networking sites, image is key, including Facebook. Twitter is a social networking site for individuals. It's more like short stories and quick news because you're only allowed to use 280 characters, which is like a short paragraph. The statistical insights have improved on Twitter from the past, but they are still more limited than Facebook insights, which means statistics that we can use to see how we're doing. Once again, imaging is key. So Instagram, which we also use, is really an image-based site platform. Before they only took square images, and now they're allowed to have landscape and portrait ratio in addition to square images. The statistical insights have improved. Once again, imaging is key on all these sites. So for Facebook, the current daily users worldwide is over 1.85 million, and that's from the fourth quarter of 2020. There's 2.8 billion monthly active users. That's a very large audience. On Twitter, which is not as popular as it used to be, but you can see the numbers are still high, 1.2 million daily users, according to quarter 4 of 2020, and 353 million monthly active users. So once again, impressive numbers. Instagram is a very popular site. Young people are very attracted to it. They have over 500 million users daily users, and over 1 million monthly active users. So let's talk about YouTube for a little bit. Over 1 billion users worldwide in 2021. Best practices, I can only give you best practices since we do not have an official policy specifically for video, except for peripheral policies. The DSOPA, this is what we recommend, that the DSOPA should review videos prior to posting. Posting videos to Facebook is authorized after the DSOPA reviews and approves a video. That's what we're doing in our district now. I'm currently writing up the policy for video. For a variety of reasons within our district, we're getting away from posting auxiliary videos on personal YouTube channels. Many reasons for that I won't go into, but policy is in the works, and we have created a district YouTube site to help mitigate that there are so many unauthorized videos on YouTube from auxiliary members, unfortunately. Some issues to consider when posting to YouTube or Facebook is videos have to be 508 compliant. Closed captioning has to be available. Copyright infringement is particularly rampant on YouTube because of the use of music in the backgrounds. I think I've been guilty of that myself. But there are sources for music that do not come under copyright that we can use. The other issue is images of children where we don't have signed releases from their legal guardian. So these are some of the issues that we need to address perhaps in video policy. So here are some of the stats. You can see Facebook is well ahead of most of them. This is from October 2020. The Facebook is basically the king of social media right now. That can change in 2 years, you never know. There are well over 20, closer to 30 social media sites. But once again, we're only authorized to use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So Coast Guard policy, which we are following in our district, authorizes the use of Instagram at district level or above. So people may have made that mistake. No one's in trouble. It's just we haven't had policy to guide us up till now. So we only found the documentation about Instagram a couple of months ago. It was signed and in effect since 2018, but unfortunately, apparently nobody ever knew about it. It wasn't shared with us, but I did get that from headquarters a couple months ago. Flotilla, so in other words, flotilla, can you guys still hear me? I just heard it.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good. So flotilla and division Instagrams technically are not authorized at this time, which is going to probably upset some people, but that is the Coast Guard policy. We hope that the Coast Guard policy changes in the near future, and we will change our policy parallel to theirs. To help mitigate this issue for now, I can only suggest that perhaps your district should have an Instagram page that units can contribute to. This is a question for your individual district. So you'll need to score that with them. One second. So just to give you an idea of percentages in the United States. So these are age percentages, social media by age, 18 to 29, 90%, 65 and older, 40%. Depending on your source, statistics may change a little bit, but they're pretty accurate. Distribution of Instagram users worldwide. So this is for a younger audience, obviously. 25 to 34 age group is going to be your highest age group, whereas 6 at 33%, 65 and over 2%. So you have to think about who your audience is going to be. If you're trying to appeal to your older members, then maybe Instagram is not the way to go. But the auxiliary Instagram site is actually very popular. So I don't really see it being a problem at all. So why are these statistics important to us? It helps us decide which platform to use, helps us decide on our target audience. So which platform do you want to use? Do you want to use Twitter? Do you want to use Facebook? Do you want to use Instagram? Do you want to use YouTube under certain considerations? YouTube's difficult to use with the closed captioning thing, but Jen Austin, we just recently were looking at that, and it looks like they're coming more into compliance with offering closed captions. So I'm going to be working on that and seeing what we could do. So helps you decide which platform you want to use. Of course, with the phenomenally higher percentages of Facebook, most Coast Guard units are on Facebook. There's very few on Twitter in comparison. And on Instagram, the Coast Guard Facebook page has 640,000 followers. So it's a pretty good audience. So it helps you decide what your target audience is. So you want to know that question. So our audience is auxiliary. on our official pages, we include internal and external stakeholders, which would be auxiliary members, potential auxiliary members, Coast Guard members, boaters, paddlers, boating safety partners, and other government agencies, potentially others as well. So I want to mention, going back a little bit, we are not saying what our platforms we can use. We're not authorized to have an auxiliary page or presence on other platforms like Snapchat, TikTok, and some of the more popular ones right now. That has not been authorized yet. I spoke with active duty PA1 at headquarters last week, and on the Coast Guard, Vimeo is not currently authorized either. So I know some people prefer to use Vimeo, but it's not authorized through, per the Gold Side standard, which once again, we really are obligated to follow. So your unit is not required to have a social media presence. So, before making a page, you want to get permission, number one, from the unit commander. Need approval by them, so the flotilla commander or division commander. You need that first. The DSO must approve all pages, and the DSO must be added as an admin, including pre-existing pages. Now, this is not, well, this is in the External Affairs Manual, but it's just worded a little bit differently. So we're adapting it to our organizational structure. So they don't have flotilla commanders and division commanders. So we've just adapted it to our structure, but in their structure, their district PAOs also have to be on each social media page as a full permission administrator. And so once again, that's even existing pages. So making a page, once again, your unit is not required to have a social media presence or account. Okay, you can always contribute through your district Facebook social media page, or you can send your content to the national page. We'd be happy to share it. Before making a page, once again, we talked about getting permission. You have to make sure that no other page exists for your unit already. So that means you have to do searches on Google and on the platforms to see if a page in your name exists. Do a very thorough search. If a page doesn't exist, you want to find the previous admin if you can, if there's even still an auxiliarist, and attempt to recover the page from the previous admin or via the platform. You want to always advise the DSOPA of the existence of that page. Facebook has made it nearly impossible to retrieve pages that are abandoned. So if it's a really old page, 10 years old, and you have no idea who the admin is, they may not even be in the auxiliary anymore. It's been very difficult. Most likely we're going to have to start taking some legal action to get these pages back. It could be for any number of reasons. Once again, somebody could have just left the auxiliary and left the page there abandoned. Someone could have passed away. In my district, I have 2 pages that are abandoned because somebody passed away. And I've attempted every which way possible through memorial requests, but his page, his personal page is still up. So that makes it also more difficult. Also in pages versus groups, on groups, you can see who the administrator is. On pages, you cannot see who the administrator is. So we mostly deal with official pages, not groups. So it makes it even more difficult. So I talked about the platforms. You're allowed to have 1 page per platform. So you really don't want that pre-existing page. In other words, 1 Facebook page, so you don't have 2 Facebook pages, but you can have both a Facebook and a Twitter page if you want. So if you have the staff. And that's a large point of contention, is that some units are making Facebook pages and social media pages, and they don't have the staff to run it on a daily basis. It is a daily commitment because you have to post daily, That's what we recommend. That's the best practice, but you do have to monitor it daily. So if you, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll circle back around to that. So the authority that gives us some of the information for social media is units should take capacity, training, and resources into consideration when deciding whether a social media presence is appropriate for their command. That is very important information. Another piece of important information is that they would have to have attended a Coast Guard Public Affairs course at the Defense Information School, or have received training from the Service Public Affairs Office. So once again, applying that to our social structure, we actually, these are the things that really need to be considered at the unit, at the leadership level. Do you have enough staff? Do you have enough experienced and trained staff to manage social media presence or page on a daily basis? If you don't have somebody trained in social media and experienced, because you have to have that knowledge, and if you don't, and that has to be coupled, like I said earlier, with public affairs knowledge, that could be a recipe for disaster. Are there pressing priorities for your staff? Is social media in your plan? Each page requires, and once again, this is best practices, but it's also our district guidelines, which I believe you're going to be adapting a lot of this to your, if it passes and gets approved. Each page requires a minimum of 2 full permission and admins, at least 2. And one of those should be in unit leadership: flotilla commander, vice flotilla commander, division commander, and vice division commander. The admins in the unit leadership position, they can be silent admins. They don't have to do any work. They're just there primarily for the purpose of leadership transition and staff turnover. So every year that you have leadership, a new election, then the new flotilla commander should be added on to that Facebook page, or should be given the password information for Twitter or Instagram. So that way we keep hold of those pages, because it's been such an issue. This is basically the only way we can control it. Once again, it parallels Coast Guard policy, even though they don't have flotilla commanders. So once again, the flotilla, our unit leadership, is just there as a silent admin for transition purposes, or in case somebody quits, we still have somebody on there. So we also recommend that you add the DSOPA or ADSO PA social media, which we do recommend that as a position as well. Those should be added as admins with full permissions to every Facebook page within the district. A list should be kept of all the social media in your district. Every page should be there. Your division public affairs officers should have a list of all the ones in their division, and the DSOPA should have a list of all the ones in the district. And that's not an easy thing. I've been actually working on that for 2 years in my district and still do not have a complete list. So the DSOPA, just like the leadership commander, but will also be a silent admin for the purposes of transition and staff turnover. Silent administrators, they do not post content. They don't monitor the comments. They're just having the silent administrator. That doesn't diminish at all the responsibility of the respective units to administer and monitor their own pages. They're there more for administrative purposes. So this is the policy we came up with. So this is just something I'm going to say is best practices at this point, because it's not national policy. So even though in the handbook that I did just finish, I did include this, but once again, it has not been approved. But it's good practice. As a matter of course, any auxiliary member assigned as a social media administrator or moderator on an official Coast Guard auxiliary or Coast Guard page should have the following: take and pass the basic e-learning course, Ox 20, Introduction to Public Affairs. That way you'll get to know the Public Affairs Manual more intimately, and you understand policy of public affairs. I'd rather have someone be a PA3 to admin, but we may not have enough administrators if we do that. So it's imperative that you read the Coast Guard Social Media Handbook, the Auxiliary Public Affairs Manual, and any info pertaining to social media in the Coast Guard External Affairs Manual. So that means you would do a Control F and then enter social media and find everything you can about social media in the External Affairs Manual. You should have experience with social media and auxiliary public affairs. And we recommend an hour training by phone or authorized class in social media, so that the district staff officer can, talk to that person and interview them, go over some key policy that has to be adhered to, like copyright and that type of thing. And just get an idea, is this person really qualified to admin a social media page? So brand identity across platforms, standardized page name with US Coast Guard Auxiliary, followed by unit location name. Add additional number if you desire, but most of the public is unaware what our numbering system is. There are flotillas with the same numbers. So flotilla, 3485, there could be several flotilla 52s, for example. So it doesn't really help to put the flotilla number in there unless you want to, but you have to have a description as well. You don't even have to put the word flotilla in there if you don't want to. Many people do, there's not a problem with it, but a lot of the public does not understand what a flotilla means. But we use that terminology. It's just not necessary if you don't want to use it. So just never use the name U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary alone, because that's designated for the national page. Just like US Coast Guard is designated for the active duty national page. So it has to be followed by your unit designation. So examples that look good, it would include, like, you can see these examples here. These would work very well. If you're doing a page for a division, there's probably there may not be an exact name in the auxiliary directory, which is usually traditionally the name you would use, would be how you're designated in the directory. So an example here is US Coast Guard Auxiliary Division 2 Seattle area. So that tells the people you're the auxiliary. Division 2 is probably not going to mean much to them, but because it's a division with several flotillas, it was just good to use the Seattle area terminology. So just like our uniform, Coast Guard pages are standardized, and Coast Guard auxiliary pages need to be standardized. So U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary followed by the name. These are some examples that would not follow that standardization. USCG Ox Flotilla 53. You can see that these don't meet the standardization that we're trying to come up with here. US Coast Guard Auxiliary. So, so for official presence in Facebook, we create pages and not groups. So pages are public, and on the post, it's just the page making the post. So groups, and we do this for various reasons. Groups are for more like a community thing. And a page is for public viewing, and it allows your brands and organizations to introduce their services and information and to keep that brand identity. So this type of familiarization is important to gain followers' brand identity. So a group is a community-based feature that Facebook has. Facebook has pages, they have groups. Now the groups could be either private, public, or secret, okay? The thing about a group versus a page is, on a group, anybody can post, everybody can see who's posting. And so you have a little bit of a PII issue there, because now we have auxiliaries posting and the public can see who you are. So And also pages statistically yield better results in search engines because of the text feature of it, and because they're public. We are allowed to have a group for our a unit, but I highly recommend that if you're going to have a group, that you make it only for auxiliary members. That has to be a criteria, and that it be a private group, because people start commenting and putting their opinions, and it's groups are more for discussion. So that would be more for there should be some privacy there, not because of the commentary and opinions of various members. So I hope that was understandable. So we pretty much refrain from personal controversial commentary on official pages. There's actually a paragraph for that in the Coast Guard External Affairs Manual. So making a page, once again, for Twitter and Instagram, it's different than Facebook. On Facebook, you already have an account and you start a page from that account. There, you can add as many administrators as you want to that page. Well, Twitter and Instagram doesn't do it that way. So for Twitter and Instagram, you have to have a login and a password. And so we recommend that you have a unit email for those kind of logins and a password. And then you have to share that login and password to one of your unit commanders, just like before. So for flotillas, it would be your FC or VFC, and for divisions, it would be your division commander or vice commander. Plus, I would give the information to the FSOPA if it's not the FSOPA running the page. So same with SOPA. That information should be shared with 3 or 4 people, including, like I said, leadership, PA officers, and definitely always with the DSOPA. The DSOPA should have a list of all logins for all Twitter and Instagram accounts, pages. So every year as leadership changes, those passwords and login information needs to be provided to the new leadership. Not only should the info be provided during any change in a social media staff, at that point, the password should be changed as well. Anytime that a staff person leaves that position, or there's the leadership transition, then you would change passwords as well after those transitions have been made. So every year as leadership changes and as staff admin may change, create a new password. Now you may keep the same person adminning it. It may be the same PAO, or if they've been vetted. It's up to the new leadership whether to keep that old admin. So the old administrators of the page have to be vetted by the new leadership team to make sure they want to keep them in there. So just like you may change FSOPAs or FSOCSs or FSO ops, it's the same thing for social media. Are you going to keep that person in there? So like I've mentioned several times, and I do say this several times because it's so important that whichever platform it is, it needs to be part of leadership transition planning. And I know we've not done that in the past, but this is what we need to do now. So I just went over social media admins need to be changed, all that stuff. So one thing that people sometimes have a misnomer of is that auxiliary pages belong to the auxiliary. So they don't belong to the auxiliaries who created a page, or the person who maintains and admins a page, even if it's their content they've created. If the auxiliary name is on it, then it belongs to the auxiliary, and they would be obligated to relinquish it at any time. For example, a staff change. Let's see here. Okay. Removing pages. So let's say you've developed a social media program, you've planned it, you have your staff, You know you have staff to man it appropriately, you know it's trained staff. But let's say a by and it's just not very lucrative. Let's say you put up a post every day and maybe you only get 10 likes a month. That's not a lot. Or let's say you've only put up a post every 6 months. That's not how social media works. So the WOW website is static technology where you make your WOW website and it's not interactive, it just kind of stays there. Well, social media is not that way. It's constant engagement and interaction and posting. So if you've done your plan and then you've decided that it's really not worth the time you're putting into it, then it might be best not to have that social media page, but you can't just remove it. So once again, unmonitored pages where nobody's posting on it or monitoring it, our abandoned social accounts can be the target of hackers who can potentially post fraudulent messages under our name. So please never abandon a page. Give it to somebody else to take care of, or keep them active and do what social media is made for. Never delete, unpublish, which is what Facebook calls it, deactivate, which is what Twitter calls it, or otherwise remove a page. The DSOPA needs to archive the page prior to removal. So social media, per the Coast Guard policy and the Federal Management Record Policy, is to be archived before it is removed. So that includes comments and that type of thing. So there's two ways you can do that. On Facebook, you can delete it, but you don't have to permanently delete it. So there's unpublishing versus deleting. Temporary, unpublishing is just temporary versus permanent, which is permanent. We usually recommend to unpublish a Facebook or Twitter page instead of permanently deleting it. Why is that? Because this way you keep all your followers if you just unpublish it and not delete it. People just can't see it for a while, but you keep all your followers and your posts will be saved. And pages are usually unpublished due to lack of staff. If there's not been a post for 6 months or more, the page should automatically be unpublished and deleted. Once again, always hand it over to DSOPA to archive first. If the unit leader can find admin replacements, then the page will not be deleted or unpublished. So there's three choices in this scenario where you're not doing the job of managing social media. So that would be to delete it permanently after archiving, unpublish it temporarily until you find new staff, but archive it at that time, or find new staff right away so you don't delete or unpublish the page. But unpublishing the page is no big deal. Once again, it still is kept intact. You can republish it. So let's see. Security. Well, okay, like it says here, all personnel have a responsibility to ensure that sensitive information is not posted, communicated in an official, unofficial, or personal capacity. So that's from the Coast Guard External Affairs Manual. Now, I'm a retired police officer, so I have to say security awareness with social media platforms and posts should take top priority, period. The use of social media exposes us to new digital risks and challenges that we haven't been exposed to before. Secure your accounts and follow OPSEC, Operation Security Policy, SAT policy, which, as you guys know, security, accuracy, policy, and propriety. For official use only, we don't want to use that. And we have to consider Privacy Act of 1974 restrictions, which can be violated easily on social media. Just tagging a friend on an official post is violating the Privacy Act, potentially violating the Privacy Act of 1974. Even though the Auxiliary and Coast Guard Public Affairs policy states maximum disclosure with minimum delay, take the time necessary to ensure the information is suitable for social media release. Ensure the post content is accurate and does not violate policy. So when it says maximum disclosure with minimum delay, that minimum delay, that time to make sure that post is correct, that is part of your minimum delay, okay? that is a necessary part of it. So it's not like you have to hurry and post it. We just have minimum delay, but that includes having it vetted. So for OPSEC, never release information on social media that violates OPSEC or national security. Do not post operations information on an official page or your personal timeline when currently engaged in those operations. So if you're out doing a mom patrol, don't start posting photos while you're out there. You wait till that patrol is over, because that does jeopardize security. That would be an example of an OPSEC, and that could actually jeopardize the safety of our members' operations. So I just said, don't tag members on an official Facebook page. There's a thing where you could turn off the tagging abilities on the page settings. So I recommend you always turn off those tagging abilities, which means, let's say there's a cool post up there about your shipmate and you want to tag your shipmate so they can see the post. You can't do that. So I turn off those tagging abilities, because that would happen. Instead of tagging your friend, you can send them the link to the photo and story, or maybe even share it on their page, but maybe they don't want that to happen. So it's just better to let them know it's there, and do not tag, don't ever tag. And that is Coast Guard policy. Do not share posts from personal timelines. I see this all the time. So let's say a member has this really awesome photo and they've only shared it to their personal timeline, and the personal timeline is public, let's say. So you have the ability to share that post to the official auxiliary page. You can never do that. So what happens is, when we tag people or share from the personal pages, now we're directing people to their personal pages. So the profiles of that member, well, that's a PII information and potentially in violation of the Privacy Act of 1974, because if on that page, let's say their posts are public, there could be somebody's wife's name, so that's unauthorized. There could be a picture of his house with his address on it. So there could be these different things that could violate the policy. So that's why we don't share posts from personal timelines or tag people. So also, obviously, we can't share posts from citizens' timelines. That's a big no-no too. So due to online identity theft and other online threats, be cognizant of the privacy settings on your own timeline. So consider making your personal page more secure via privacy settings and adjustments. On Facebook, that means considering your timeline audience to be friends only instead of the public. And you can set your privacy timelines to that. There's even a button to push. If you've been sharing public for a long time, there's even a button to push to select for actually making all past posts, even for the last 10 years, to friends only, which is a great feature. So monitor your social media daily. That means your personal and your professional. Make sure that no hacking activity has occurred. Some people will, if you have a very public timeline, they'll take your friends list, they'll take your picture, and they'll make their own, they'll clone basically clone your timeline. So they use that to contact all the members on your friends list. And then now they can get the information off the members' timelines, because you compromised it by having a public timeline. And when you have a public timeline, then that shows all the other people that comment and like your posts. So, and our adversaries are trying to glean information, this type of information, every single day, whether it's on our personal timelines or on an official page. If you have been compromised, make sure you change your password immediately and go to a two-step verification process, which every platform has. You can also request alerts about unrecognized logins, which I do on Facebook. And you can just monitor general login activity. So I've never done that on Facebook. Oh, yeah, I have. So both on Facebook, and if you have a Gmail account or a Hotmail account or whatever, you can actually see if there have been people trying to log in and from what country. So it's really important, guys, to make sure all your devices, desktop and mobile, both are up to date with software protection. Our computers and our smartphones are indispensable tools, and we really need to mitigate the risk with protection, okay? So another thing is never create an active duty social media page. This is done by the district or national to Coast Guard headquarters in DC. All pages on the active duty side have to be registered in Washington, DC. We don't currently have something like that set up or the structure to set that up. I hope to see that in the future, but we're just not doing that, but that is how it's done on the Gold side. At this point, I do believe to mitigate that, we should at least have all pages registered with our DSOPA. So here's some rules of engagement. Let me check the time here. Oh, we're getting close. Oh, shoot. Okay, so post and share content in your own general geographical area or region. That is what the Coast Guard does. So if you go to Coast Guard pages, you'll see they just basically talk about their area, their own content. They're not sharing from all over the nation. They're using their own region. So unless it's like general posts about safe boating and our holiday, you know, non-location specific posts, that's really great to share from other Coast Guard pages. But take a good look at Coast Guard pages and see how they do it. You're not going to see New York sharing a lot of content from Seattle because they have their own pages. But if it's a phenomenal event or a phenomenal photo, that does happen, and there's nothing wrong with that. The national pages are the exception to this rule because they cover all units. So know your level of engagement. If you are a flotilla unit, your content should be around your flotilla or your local Coast Guard station and that general region. In general, we only recommend you share from official government pages. When in doubt, get guidance from your DSOPA, your legal, you know, always look to your own district for what kind of policy you're using. I have a great example, but I won't go into it. We don't recommend that you cut and paste posts. Use the share feature. That is appropriate social media etiquette. There are exceptions such as cross-platform, but always credit the work. Create your own content, post on a daily basis. So social media is not about share. Social media is about your own content. Never violate copyright or intellectual property. Obtain permission in writing for intellectual property or copyright. Coast Guard and auxiliary material is not copyrighted if obtained in the performance of duties. However, know the source of the material. Always give credit to the auxiliary and Coast Guard. And if you're unsure of the source, err on the side of caution and don't use it. It's not worth it. The Coast Guard is very finicky about copyright violations. So don't assume because another official page has used a post that it's okay to use. You have to do your own research for source. So I've seen many pages out there that an unauthorized post will get shared over and over and over. And it was a bad post to begin with. So for engagement, we have official, unofficial, and personal posts. Official is gauging on social media, and that is your job. And you can just figure out the rest here. You know, unofficial is you can talk about the Coast Guard or auxiliary, but don't give the impression that you're posting in a professional capacity. And personal is engaging on social media that's not related to you or your job or anything else. So section 5R of the auxiliary manual has really good information in there. Please read section 5R. It describes the basic provisions for the use of social media by individuals in their capacity of auxiliaries on and off duty. Some people have incorrect perception that if you don't identify it as an auxiliarist, you can write over you want. That's not the case. Provisions are designed to protect the Coast Guard and its members from any harm associated with a potential unauthorized release of protected information This also ensures that auxiliary image is in keeping with Coast Guard cores and values. So whether you're posting officially or unofficially, your post should always keep within the Coast Guard's core values and ethos. So I'm going to skip that one. So just real quick, checklist: receive leadership approval, review policies and resource material, determine your goals, determine your audience, identify appropriate social media platform, draft content strategy. If you don't have any content, you really don't have a page. Determine site management strategy, post disclaimers. We have to post commentary disclaimers and others. Identify the site as official if you want. Post relevant content. Don't post your opinions, like commentary or politics. Let's see. Comments. If there's an inappropriate comment, our policy is we hide the comment, we do not delete it. Because of federal management records policy and Coast Guard policy, we do not delete, we only hide it. We must keep a record of that comment. Report online terrorist activities. Always provide appropriate attributions such as photo credit. Do not use content from unknown sources, because then we don't know if it's copyrighted or not. So we don't give commercial endorsements. We don't give fundraising endorsements. We just primarily share from our official government pages. Primarily, there are some exceptions to that rule. So I told you, check your privacy settings on both your personal and official pages. If you're running a business, besides the auxiliary, consider a separate business page for your personal business instead of combining your personal page with your business page. Do not friend people you don't know. Do not accept friend requests from someone you already are friends with, because that's probably a cloned account. Use strong passwords to protect your account. Consider using a separate email just for your personal social media accounts. That way, if you have other things linked to that email, they can't get to it. So auxiliary members are an extension, reflection, and projection of the U.S. Coast Guard. Anything posted must be considered public, anything. Even if you have a private profile with friends only, there are people on there that can be offended. Anything you post can be taken out of content and used maliciously. Once again, Section 5R of Oxman will help you with that. I'm going to go ahead and move forward here. I'm always saying, please read the auxiliary manual, Section 5R. Okay, so this is a little bit more practical stuff. We are allowed to, yes, to use the Coast Guard emblem, the first image on electronic media, as long as we don't alter it. We cannot use the seal. The seal has a different design and purpose. It's only for authorized use, and is for auxiliary documents requiring a signature under seal. Sometimes it's used for stationery, but it's not supposed to be used on any electronic venues. So that means you can't use it as your profile picture. You are not supposed to be using it in newsletters. So we're not supposed to be doing anything that could facilitate this unauthorized duplication. And I'm very aware that Wikipedia is using this for our logo. And that was posted by I saw by an auxiliary back in 2006. So that really needs to be changed, but I think that needs to be decided by upper leadership. So here's an example of copyright. And if anybody wants to unmute themselves and answer the following questions, we're almost done here. Is Popeye copyrighted? Can we use it?
Nope.
Any other answers? Well, okay, in Europe, it's now in public domain, but in the United States, it's still protected. It's slated to be released in 2024, but who knows what's going to happen in the courts. Just yesterday, was something like National Eat Your Spinach Day or something like that. And I actually saw Popeye posted on official sites, which was a complete copyright violation. Anybody know the exception to that where we can use it? We can use it for training purposes, but other than training purposes, we can't use Popeye yet. So does this card look familiar to anybody? Did you see this card on some of our official pages this last Christmas by chance? Anybody see this before? You think this, so it has a cutter and it's pretty cool. Is this okay to use? Is this okay to use on social media? So the answer is anybody want to try a guess?
Say no.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I can see here that it's probably a greeting card based on this little fold here. So no, we can't use it just
It
because
also has the artist's name on it.
it certainly does. And this was, I saw this used in at least 10 pages this last Christmas. So here's where they actually sell the card. You can see that it was a card. This is on Etsy. It says designed by Kirsten Brothers, blah, blah, blah. So if we contact this Etsy seller and get permission to use the card, do you think that now we can use the card?
No,
And why would that be?
because that is a fixture of, I'm not using the proper words, of
It's okay.
Coast Guard. That ship. That's
Okay.
a Coast Guard ship. No, we cannot.
So that's a good answer. The other thing is whoever's selling this on Etsy, we don't know if they're the artist. Okay, it says designed by Kirsten Brothers, a 40-year-old family greeting card. But that's just what they're saying on their description on the Etsy site. That doesn't mean that that's the artist. So if I contacted the Etsy site seller and said, hey, I'm with the Coast Guard Auxiliary, I'd really love to use this image. It's beautiful for Christmas this year. Can I use it? And they say, sure, Well, then I have to really find out, do they own the intellectual property rights to this image? So they may not be the ones that can give me permission. You have to get permission from the copyright holder or the person of the intellectual property. So one thing I might do is I might try to find the Kirsten Brothers and contact them personally to say, hey, can I use this image? Can you send me a high resolution one? But then you have to take into consideration, is it past our donation value and all that kind of stuff. So you might want to get some advice from legal on it. But that's how I've used copyrighted material, by contacting the original artist and that type of thing, and receive it in written permission. And I only limit it to one event. I don't, it's not for, I have now in the future permission to use this every time. It's limited to one event, and I put that in writing, that I will be only using it for this one particular thing. So it is possible, but you can see how this is a problem. Once again, one site posted it, an official site posted it, so you think, oh, that's good material. Well, it's a copyright violation, and once again, the Coast Guard is not very keen on those legal issues like that. So here's just a little fun thing. Can I post that? Politics, endorsements, fundraisers. So I have to say, I hope nobody gets offended by these photos. Some of them aren't too nice. 90% of these photos I obtained from active duty PAOs as examples, and a couple of them I got on my own from members that I personally know. But the majority of them did come from a training session with D13 active duty PAO. So we're gonna find out, can we use this or not? Politics. The president is a terrible human being, and horrendous things should happen to them. Now, I'm not telling you which president it is. This is an older post. Get over it. They're the president. Suck it up or leave the country already. I don't care about politics. Politicians make me sick. Can we post this?
No,
No,
No.
That's right, we cannot. Okay, so here's a really fun, great fundraising event. It's really, really great one. Walk a mile in her shoes. So can we post this, and why or why not?
I would say no, because it's an inappropriate representation of the uniform.
Very good.
I would also say no, because it could be offensive to trans people.
That's very true. So, and the other thing is, we are never allowed to support fundraising events unless they're specifically Coast Guard related. So unless you have permission from the Commodore. So, so no, we do not, we don't actively endorse any fundraisers. Unless it's, you know, our own type thing, association, whatever. Even though they're, you know, great community event, we still don't do it. So why isn't the media slamming AOC? What's AOC? For flash? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's her, that's supposed to be her name, Alexandria.
Alexandria.
That's right. I wasn't thinking there. Okay, for flashing a white power sign.
a
So
what?
oh,
a white power sign. Why isn't she not getting slammed for flashing a white power sign? Is this,
politics.
this is just an opinion?
No,
Yes.
politics.
You better not.
However,
Yeah.
it's, you say that it's an auxiliary member. Now, the social media, does it limit what an aux member is able to post on their own page, or is this just regarding what somebody is posting as the auxiliary?
Absolutely is a problem on their own personal page, because they're gonna,
Okay,
they're gonna have.
Right. You're
Yes.
gonna be, Facebook is gonna go after you anyway and shut it down.
That's,
They will.
that's another story right there, but,
Every-
so yes, if it's posted on someone's personal page, whether it's for friends only or not, we just read 5R and they wouldn't, I don't think, yeah, this does not abide by our core values, okay? I'm gonna just skip that one, it's silly, but, okay, here's one. Have some downtime, trying out my new drone. He's on duty. You can see the Mustang in the back. You can see the Coast Guard emblem there. And then he says, sweet dude, I'll post the video later. So would there be anything wrong with this post?
I can't see it up close, unfortunately, but it
Okay,
doesn't seem like it's,
well, it
yeah.
depends. Is the video of the drone gonna release security information?
yeah, it's not about drone, it's about the post itself. So
yeah, the post.
yeah, the auxiliary, we're not authorized yet to use drones to my knowledge.
Right.
And the Coast Guard is starting to get permission to do that and on some missions. But this post would not be appropriate because we have some people here in Coast Guard uniform, and then we have a guy who's just taking a break and playing with his drone on his break, which would not be authorized, okay? So, and then he's kind of bragging about, you know, what he's doing on his downtime on duty. So we can't play with gifts or, you know, toys or electronics on duties like that. So that would be a no. Okay, this was not a real, I don't believe this was a real post. Joe Costi, cool shot of one of the helos I got on our last. Mom said, mom's so sweet. Mom said, so proud of you. Then somebody said, great photo. Love the Coast Guard. Keep up the great work. Would this be an appropriate post on somebody's Facebook page? Their personal Facebook page, Joe Costi's Facebook.
I'll say no because of the tagging.
And which tag is that?
He's got a feud at Joe Costi at USCG.
Uh-huh. And so this is someone's personal page. So this is meant to be okay. The tagging is on his personal page, which is different. So nobody can see that, that there's nobody posted, because he is Joe Posty. So he's just putting his own name. So basically, he's not on duty. You cannot tell any deployment or operations information. He says it's on his last deployment. So anyways, it's fine. You can do a cool deployment, and after the fact, as long as there's no OPSEC photo, you can actually post some nice photos sometimes.
Hey, Deborah, I think this is Shelley. I think
Hi.
one of the things that makes that other photo okay that I think should be pointed out is there's nothing identifiable. It's an ocean. Like, you don't know what country that's in. You don't know if it's domestic or foreign. It's just ocean and sky.
Or one of the Great Lakes for that matter.
Exactly. Yes. Could be a Great Lake. There's nothing that says it has to be saltwater. Good point, Lacey.
Yeah, very good. The only thing you have to consider possibly is if the social media platform you're on has automatic geotagging. So you want to make sure that your geotagging is off when you post photos like this, just for safe measure. So good points there. So here's Joe Coasty again. He likes to post a lot. So this is on his personal page. In the middle of flight ops, while patrolling out on the strait, going to miss lunch to work on some repairs before they can launch again. There's mom again. Love you, sweetie. And then Drugs Are Bad says, how long do you usually get for lunch? So would this be okay?
No.
No, and why would that be?
In my opinion, it's putting it in a bad frame of light, basically saying, hey, our stuff keeps breaking.
Okay, so you're right. So we're telling our adversaries who are constantly looking for this kind of information, we're telling our adversaries that our asset is down, okay? So that's not good. Now he's saying, but we're gonna go to lunch. So hey, smugglers, come do your thing because we're gonna be at lunch,
Yeah. How long do you get for lunch? Yeah, exactly.
And he's also posting while on duty, so.
Oh, good point. A very, very good point. Thank you. I definitely don't want to post operations while you're involved in the operation. Oh, I hated this. Okay, March is National Stop Blaming White People Month. So I just got this off somebody's auxiliary member, the auxiliary members page within the past month.
Ouch.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch is right. No, don't put that out.
Once again, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but this,
No.
This is just completely inappropriate,
Right.
Hope it offends everybody, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
It should.
And I even thought,
racist. That's racist right there. So.
Yeah, I even thought, do I even put this in the presentation? Because it will offend somebody, and that's why I give my little thing at the beginning that I hope I don't offend anybody, because my disclaimer, because it is offensive, but it goes to show what kind of things that even our members are posting. So this stays, within our training here, but I see stuff like this all the time.
So let's say that you do have somebody in your flotilla that you consistently see them posting stuff like this. What do you do? Who do you take to your flotilla commander, to the DSOPA? Where do you take it?
Basically, I can tell you, I am 31's diversity officer, and we have that exact same situation happening now. Of course, I won't say any names, but it's been reported to my division officer, and he has started the procedures, the reporting procedures.
So if I see it, then what I'm gonna do is if I want to be the Twitter police that day or whatever, I'm gonna screenshot it because things disappear. I'm probably gonna screenshot the auxiliaries' profile page. And then, we have in place policy for investigations. So if this is a constant problem where someone's potentially going against our core values and ethos, then, you would report, if you want to, if that's your choice, if you've chosen to report it, then you're going to report it to your unit commander, not their unit commander, not their district. You're going to bring it up with your unit commander, and then they would initiate the investigation. So we're not investigators. We don't do punitive action. If he's a friend of yours, you might want to say, hey, these aren't going by our core values. But if you feel that you have no choice but to report him, then take those screenshots, bring them to your unit commander, and then let them go forward with what will be appropriate and what kind of investigative abilities, like maybe your diversity may have. But it's usually, I think it's in the manual how they do investigations. So even as the branch chief for social media, I do not investigate these things. I get all the material, the screenshots. I look to see if it is an auxiliary member, and I just document everything, and then it actually goes to the district that's involved. So,
This post is on a personal Facebook page?
yes, sir.
Hey, Deborah, this is Shelley again. Let's step that back slightly.
Okay.
From the perspective of, let's assume it's like the first time someone's done it, and you see it and you think, okay, maybe they just don't fully understand.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say you're in a position that you don't necessarily feel comfortable making that conversation or speaking to the individual about.
Okay.
Would you say it follows the same course? You go to your flotilla commander, or you go to the other person's flotilla commander, you go to some other entity?
Yes, so we never reach out across units. We never reach out across districts, because that's a very delicate situation. So you would be reporting it to your flotilla commander, and then hopefully they'll have to take it up their chain of leadership. But because once again, if we're going across units or across districts or even across flotillas, it's a delicate matter, and we don't have, and it also depends on your district policy as well, how units handle these type of things. But basically, you don't want to handle it yourself, and it's really up to the flotilla commander at that point of how they're trained to handle it. So I haven't taken that leadership class, so it'd be hard for me to answer that completely.
Yeah, and thank you. The main thing is I wanted you to kind of share, as a regular deck plate member, you see something, what's your first line of action? And then, as you said, take it to your flotilla commander, and then from there it will go through the appropriate channels and process. But just so that people know where to make that first.
Yes, first step would be your own unit commander, your flotilla commander. So personally, if it's somebody I knew, I might contact them. If it's someone I knew personally in my unit, and I was friends with them, I might say, hey, this doesn't meet our core values. You got to stop posting crap like this, and then they'll probably kick me off their Facebook page.
Deborah, what about, if you're the DSO in our district currently, it's DSO PB, but what do you suggest there? So, it's something that we're just kind of starting with social media policy and review. I think up to this point, we've done just informal phone calls when this has happened. We haven't had a situation so far where there's been a intense review. What do you suggest for best practices there?
Can you repeat that question again? I'm so sorry. I was trying to get my face screen, and I can't seem to do it. Sorry. I'm screen sharing. I want to stop screen sharing. Stop screen share. There we go. Thank you. Now I feel better. Okay. So can you just repeat that one, please?
Yeah. So best practices for districts and district this district is DSO PB, but in other districts might be the DSO PA, and I know Shelley also does this too.
Yes.
But, and you come across a member that is posting, and maybe that member is a flotilla commander or a division commander or someone, what do you suggest for best practices for dealing with that as well? Is it sort of the informal call initially, and then or informal call to the unit leader, the elected leader?
So it can't be you unless it's a friend. And you feel comfortable with that. But the official chain of leadership would, if it's the flotilla commander doing it, then you would have to go to the division commander, okay? So, and then they have to take it from there. Normally, if it was in my situation, I would expect that complaint, depending on how grievous it is, but who am I to say how grievous it is? So I would expect that complaint to go to the DCO to make a decision. So when I do contact other districts in this kind of situation where a citizen has complained and we have no choice, and I've contacted my director and I said, okay, I have all the evidence here. I'm not investigating it. I'm just documenting what I've seen. I'm not investigating it because that's not my job. And then I'll contact usually the unit leader, like the flotilla commander, and I'll say, well, I do highly recommend that you bring this up with your DCO. Don't make these, decisions just on your own. Confer with your DCO as to where you're going to go from here. And every district will handle it differently. Some will be a phone call and some will be, I had one guy within 2 weeks, he was out of the auxiliary. So the main thing is that we don't handle these things on our own. Even as the branch chief for social media, I'm not going to do that. As the DSOPA, I'm not going to do that. But we have reporting obligations if somebody makes a complaint. So whether it's going to be informal or formal, that is certainly up to your individual district, because every district handles it differently. We have policy. We have policy on investigations. We don't have policy on a social media thing. So it's something that we're working on. It's not. It's hard question.
Scott, are we okay on time? I know we're 20, because we do have some questions here that people have been chatting. I think we'll continue on and if that works for everyone.
It works for me.
Okay.
I have no trouble with it. I'm just having to record another session, so I'm kind of doing two things at once here, but there's no other demands on this Zoom account, so keep going if you want to.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And this kind of dovetails to one of the, actually got the same question from multiple people. If you have a district, right, and you could have 50 pages, right, between the various flotillas and divisions and all of that. How can you, as a DSOPA or DSOPB, sort of keep up with all of that? In terms of, and yes, you may have an ADSO, but even so, two people keeping up with hundreds of posts and interactions, people might be commenting or liking or whatever. How do you go about doing that in addition to all of your other duties?
It's virtually impossible. Like I said, I've been trying for 2 years to develop a spreadsheet just with all the lists of every social media page in my district. So I sent out, so in our district, the way it works now is all the division commanders have to have a list of all the pages in their division. And then, so I depend on the division commanders to give me that list. Has that happened? Negative, it has not happened. So 2 years later, I'm still trying to Google and track down flotilla by flotilla by flotilla, 45 flotillas or whatever it is, and trying to find out if each one has a social media page. And that information in 2 years has changed because sometimes they change leadership and they don't even know about their social media pages because there's been no transition plan. So I'm trying to get all the genies back in the bottle and find out all the pages. And it's been a difficult task. But one thing for the future is all pages now have to be approved by the DSOPA. So going forward, it's going to be a little bit smoother. But right now, I'm still trying to catch up with all of the pages that I have an Excel spreadsheet that's incomplete right now. Thank you, Lacey, for joining us.
And what authority? I saw a question come in here from Doug. It says, what authority do flotilla division district leaders have to shut down a social media page that was not approved by leadership and has no leadership oversight?
So normally we don't just shut down a page, because remember, a lot of these policies are just coming to fruition on the auxiliary side because we have not kept track of that. So you're going to give them an opportunity to come into line with policy is the number one thing, is the first thing. And then, so in Coast Guard policy, there's a very specific section that if they're not complying and it's been 6 months, then we shut down the page. But I'm telling you right now, I had huge pushback from one of my pages, and they did every game possible they could not to add me as admin, because they knew the page was going to be taken down basically. And so you will get pushback, especially when people have a personal vested interest in a page, or they think they own the page because they made the pages. Like I explained, auxiliaries don't own the pages, the auxiliary does. So the policy gives the DSOPA the authority to manage all social media within their district. That's number one. And that's why I gave you that passage earlier. So shutting down a page, the DCO is going to be involved, the flotilla commander is going to be involved. You want to start with contacting the SOPA and see if he can straighten it out. And then the FSOPA will be contacted. And then hopefully the DSOPA and the SOPA will contact the flotilla commander or division commander and work it out. It usually gets worked out. It does not always get worked out. Like I said, I had a recent case that was horrible. I had never had that happen before, where there was just so much pushback. They wanted to keep it all within their control, which is not how it works. Even in the External Affairs Manual, the DSOPA has control over all these things. So that's why I've written our policy to very much parallel, including in my district policy and the social media handbook, which isn't approved yet. It's all parallels active duty policy, and just written in a certain way to apply to our organizational structure, because our organizational structure isn't exactly like the Coast Guard. Does that answer the question?
It does.
Okay. And thank you, Doug.
Let's see here. Someone asked if you are planning on social media training programs for PAOs or PA3s or just regular or staff officers in PA or PB.
Well, yes. This year we're planning on doing a national workshop on social media, which will be offered to everybody who wants to take it. It will probably be 1 or 2 hours a week for 4 weeks. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. So that is one step we're taking. Because we've had social media for several years and we haven't had a policy for several years. The policy is just catching up with the technology and what units are doing. So I am always welcome when invited to do a social media presentation for your particular unit. Happy to do that. Probably better on district level than doing every flotilla, obviously. And in this case, there's going to be a recording probably available to the public or to members. So I have a 3.5-hour recording on my district website, member protected under the recent conference. So there's a 3.5-hour instruction I did for my personal district, who you're welcome to log in and watch the 3 hours if you want. So, and then we'll have this one here. But if you want to do one for your own DTRAIN, I seem to be doing the DTRAIN circuit this year. So, so feel free to give me a call and see if it would fit into my schedule. I'm always happy to help any way I can.
And one last question I had, unless other folks have questions. I know we had talked about sort of, mitigation efforts and, in some cases, disciplinary measures. Will there be, or do you anticipate there being social media specific, disciplinary measures?
I do.
For social media?
I do perceive that happening, but it would not be fair at this point in time for basic social media violations because the policy is just coming to fruition. So, you know, we have to give people time to adapt to that. It's another situation if, let's say, in the course of their adminning social media, they start violating core values. That's a different story. So the peripheral core values that are being violated should probably be investigated through the regular investigative chain of leadership that you do in your district, or that's done as explained in the auxiliary manual. So we can still have some power there our authority to do that based on not power, but you know, it's not a good thing, but authority to do that based on just not based on violating core values.
That makes sense. Some people have asked about whether you would share the PowerPoint, and I told them to reach out to you offline for that. And also for if opportunities to speak at DTRAIN and stuff like that. I told them just to reach out to you to talk to you about that.
Just reach out and I'll see what I can do. I like to see this video to see how it turns out, primarily because nobody wants to watch a 3-hour video on social media, I don't think. So this might be the better presentation to watch than my last one. And I watched my last one and I was a little bit embarrassed because I think every 3 words was and I don't know if I said a lot of ums this time, but I hope I did fewer ums than last time. So this might have been a better presentation.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a great presentation. I certainly learned a lot. And does anyone else have any other questions for Deborah?
Well, thank you for going over. You know, that was an extra half an hour, and I truly appreciate to be given that opportunity to share more knowledge with you guys. So thank you for that, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you, Scott, for your help on that as well.
So
thank you, Deborah. I really appreciate that. This is Jane, and I did just say that to John for adding us to this. So I will be talking offline with you at a later time. Thank you.
sounds good.
Awesome.
Is it a male thing? What if they don't and it's a male thing? I'm not sure what that question means. Thank you very much. I need to head to another track. There's a question here. What if they don't and it's a male thing? I'm not sure what that means. Thank you, George. I appreciate that. And thank you for all the good questions as well. So is it time to sign off then?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you guys for coming. And thank you, Deborah. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll stick around until the last person's gone, which is I do that normally.
Want me to go ahead and stop the recording?
Sure.
I guess I need to do the same thing if I can. That was me. Pause, stop recording.